Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of BC Buckets. I'm Matthew Bruning, and joining me once again is Colin Mitchell. Today, Colin, we are going to be looking at two of the more unknown prospects. Is that the right word? I don't know. They're well known, but at
Yeah.
the same time, they're unknown.
Yeah,
And
I feel
so,
like
yeah,
that
we're
I
talking
feel like
about the
that's the
Thompson
feeling with
Twins.
everybody in the G League
Well, but the G.
space.
Okay, we'll get into it. We
Yeah,
got
yeah.
the Thompson Twins, Amin Thompson and Ausar Thompson. Both of Overtime Elite. Obviously, Overtime Elite, for those who don't know, is kind of a social media basketball type contingent that they made over in Atlanta, getting a lot of young players to play over there for money, kind of giving them another option uh, as opposed to going to college or playing in the G League and stuff like that. So they are kind of the first experiment of Overtime Elite, for lack of a better phrase. They are the kind of what Overtime Elite kind of hinges on in terms of marketability, in terms of building this thing into something that can be sustainable for the future. But this isn't about Overtime Elite. This is about the Thompson Twins, Colin. Two prospects that have very, very interesting upside and potential. We're going to give our scouting reports on them. We're going to give our overall thoughts on whether they're good or not, and possibly some fits. So let's start with them in. What are your overall thoughts on Amin Thompson coming off of this overtime elite season?
Elite athlete, absolute monster. 44-inch vertical. I guess that was measured last year when he was
Mm-hmm.
not this old. I think he's great in the open floor, great in transition, and then not only that, he's basically like a 6-7 point guard. With the way he plays. Overall, I would say that the weaknesses he does have is obviously his shooting and in between game, but his passing and driving and just athleticism, I think, throw him up to where he is in the draft, and that's what's kind of driving him.
Yeah, so I'll preface everything I say with these two in that I wanted to watch them against competition that I knew.
Hmm.
So what I did is I went back and watched their game in the TBT last year, actually.
Mm.
So Overtime Elite had a team in the TBT. They played against the Creighton alumni team, and both the Thompsons started and played a lot of minutes in that game. So I went and watched that game, and they lost by like 3 or 4. Really competitive game, and I felt a lot better after watching that game than I did watching them in Overtime Elite. Because Overtime Elite, I didn't know, I didn't have a feel for how
Yeah,
good the opponent, the team, the players were that they were going against, and the defense was spotty at times. The commentators were streamers. I didn't know how serious to take it. But in that TBT game, I think I saw from Amin specifically how impactful his athleticism was.
hmm
Like, it wasn't just that he is athletic. It's not just that he can pass the ball. It's not just that he has defensive potential. It's that it can be applied. And this was him, obviously, 10 months ago. So he's, 19 and a half years old at that point because he's 20.4 right now. You see it against, I mean, those are pros, right? In the TBT, those are guys playing overseas. Those are guys, fighting for G League spots in a lot of ways. And I thought he was like excellent
yeah,
in a lot of ways. You saw his quickness, his athleticism. I mean, second possession, he goes down and just freaking booms it. And you're like, okay, he's A, not afraid, and B, I think just a really, really excellent athlete. And we see athletes kind of get the benefit of the doubt in the NBA a lot of times, like those type of athletes, those
yeah.
elite level athletes. So,
And you don't see a lot of these athletes, though. I mean, you
no.
mentioned him driving to the rim. He was 71% at the rim last year. Now, obviously, again, that's not against competition we really know, but he's basically like a walking paint touch. You give him
Yeah,
the ball, he's going to get there.
yeah. And so I think we'll get into Asar in a bit, but like the athleticism is Gerald Green esque. Like,
Yeah.
bottom line, that she should be in a dunk contest probably in 2 years, in theory. Like, if not this year. So it's going to be really, really interesting because the NBA teams do not let that pass. Like, they don't just shove that to the side, that type of
Right.
athleticism. So you mentioned his passing. I think it is very good. Averaged 7 assists per game last year. Had 3.2 turnovers. So we're talking 2-to-1 assist turnover in Overtime Elite. Overtime Elite is more of an open game, right? Like, there's a lot more transition opportunities. Even in the half court, it's pretty open for the most part, to where Amin can throw those no look passes, but
Yeah.
I like the way he was able to hang in the air and make the double pump fakes and go like that. So, yeah, I think all that's true. The scoring is the big question for me. Like
Yeah.
that's just the bottom line is how he's able to get his shot off. Obviously the catch and shoot threes, shot 25% from three. Those are the questions, like scoring in between game, 3-point shooting, shot creation, all that stuff. Which is concerning. But at the same time, if he can just develop a serviceable 3-point shot, it completely changes the ceiling of
Oh,
him.
of
And I
course.
feel like
Yeah,
we
of
say that for a
course.
lot of prospects, but if he can shoot the ball at any rate, we're talking about an all-star.
I know we're gonna talk about his brother later, but the difference between his brother's form and Amin's form is night and day in my eyes when I look at his shot. And unless he changes his shot significantly, it's really hard for me to believe that he's gonna be able to make better than like 30% from three with that shot.
It's okay. The thing about jump shots in a broader sense, it's a lot of it's just work ethic, right?
Right.
Like Ben Simmons has never been a good jump shooter, like because a lot of people say he doesn't work on it, right? It's not something that he wants to do. Like you look at the guys that work on it, and I go back to Kawhi Leonard, who did not have a pretty shot out of college, was
Hmm.
not projected to be a shooter at all. Within 3 years in the NBA, he's cleaned up his shot, and it's a form to where I think it's replicable for like a guy like him in. Like a guy like him in could look at Kawhi and be like, all right, simple shot, get it there, you're strong enough. Like I think he can clean it up in that way. So that's why I'm hesitant to say he will never be a good 3-point shooter because I did that with Kawhi, and then Kawhi
Mm.
went there. But also we're talking about Kawhi Leonard. Like that's a
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
player. Like
That's an
doesn't
all-time great.
yeah, doesn't mean Thompson have that type of work ethic. Like that
Right.
is 95th percentile up work ethic. That's
Yeah.
different. So you're right. Like it adds the variance to where he could very well never hit 30% of threes. Like just flat out. So um I think I want to get to Asar because I think after that comparing them is interesting because they are different players,
Yeah.
right? So Asar Thompson, it's funny because Asar actually won the MVPs in overtime elite
Yeah.
of
All
their like
four of them. I guess
yeah
they had four for 2 years.
or playoffs. They have playoffs or finals
Yeah.
MVPs, all that stuff. So Asar was actually winning those MVPs, and it's interesting because he shot significantly worse field goal percentage wise. Shot 47% from the field. Had a better 3-point percentage, 33% from three. Had less assists but more points. Um, Straight up, if I will be comparing them a little bit here. Asar is a better defender to me.
I completely
Asar
agree.
is an awesome defender. That TBT game, go turn on the tape. He was picking guys up full court in their chest against again, these are pro guards, probably like overseas guards,
Hmm.
and picking up, getting their chest, ripping them time after time. I said, okay, Asar Thompson is an elite defender, flat
Yeah.
out. Like can do a lot. Pinning shots to the backboard with two hands in that game, like that is what you want to see. And I think Amin has the potential to do that, but Asar has realized that potential earlier than him. And I mean, he's not as lazy. I think Amin is a little lazier, going for steals and stuff like that. Obviously, Asar falls into that in overtime elite a little bit, but I'm not worried about Asar's defense at all. I think that's his number one strength. He's going to be a very, very, very good defender. And then you get to his athleticism, similar to Amin. Not, I don't think he's as like if Amin Thompson is like 100, like Asar is probably like a 93, 94. Like
Yeah.
he's not quite
Yeah.
at that level, but also at times I don't think he tries to be at that level as much. So the athleticism is good. The defensive upside is great, and yeah, he's good in transition. So those are the strengths of his. I'll let you talk before we get into everything else.
I actually want to add a little bit more of a strength, and I think that it's his
Go ahead.
not open court upside, but his ability to create for himself upside. I guess I think he's a lot better and more developed in that sense than Amin. Obviously, he's a good playmaker. He makes the right reads. He's not as flashy as his brother, but he's able to move around, get good shots, and I don't want to say it's good. I want to make sure that's very clear. But you see the potential there, and when you see the flashes that he has, they're really good flashes. They're not just like, oh, that's cool. And I think that that's part of the reason why he's more of a he's getting those quote unquote MVPs or things like that is because he's more versatile and the half court. Because when you look at Amon, the half court's going to be tough in an NBA scenario. I feel like if you aren't able to make guys go over screens or give you any type of leeway on a drive like
Yeah.
that. That's the tough part.
Yeah. For Asar, I do think his handle is interesting because I don't specifically have like either one having a great handle
Right.
here. Like I think both can very much improve in that. Um, which makes it interesting. I will say for Asar, as much as I like 3-point shooting, and he shot I think 70% from the free throw line, which is promising because in that TBT game, I think he shot like 3 of 8 or something like that, and I was very, very much alarmed by that.
Yeah.
But like you said, the 3-point shot is better than men's right now. I do have questions of him as a creator. Like you said, he's not as flashy as Amin, and that probably works against him in situations like this where we are watching games and watching highlights and trying to figure out if they can pass. But even in that TBT game, I thought he just had way too many turnovers, was kind of panicky with the ball in his hands. And again, this was a year ago, so you give him a year of development to now. But I still question. I don't think he's definitely not a primary ball handler. He's not Ben
Yeah.
Simmons.
No, not at all.
And like against pressure, against double teams, against traps, he was just very, very panicky, which had me concerned. And to get into a bigger, probably the biggest concern for me with Asar, um, it is he can get to the rim, but he can't finish at the rim. And then even the in between game, he doesn't have it. Like shooting 47.2% against OTE competition is worrisome because even if we say those are high level high school, college, or I mean not college players, but high level amateur youth players, right? Like 19-year-olds, 20-year-old, 21-year-olds.
Right.
Like these are high level for those ages. The court was so open and the effort level was not that of a Big Ten championship game, like an NCAA tournament game.
Right.
Like this isn't Brandon Miller going against San Diego State in the Sweet 16. Like it's not. Um, so to only shoot 47% and a lot of those being at the rim, it is alarming to me. It's very
Yeah.
alarming to me that of his scoring upside.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing with both of them too is they can get one. You already kind of mentioned it. They get out of control a little bit with their handle, or they can try to do too much. I know with Asar specifically is when he gets to the rim and he's not comfortable going up, he kind of just tosses a pass or he gives cross court passes that aren't
He
great.
leaves his feet a lot. Well, they both leave their feet to pass a lot, but
Yeah,
Asar feels more turnover prone when he leaves his
yeah,
feet.
and that's obviously an issue, especially like you said, where you're not going against G League competition. You're not even going against college competition. You're going against OTE competition, which I've never watched the league outside of prospects, right? So
Mhm.
that is an issue. However, I will say that when he's at the rim, he does have that athleticism to get there. It's not like he can't do it.
Yeah.
So I think that that's going to be something interesting to watch because it seems more like a mental thing than it is a ability thing.
Yes. But then again, there's touch at the rim you have to have to
That's true.
finish, angles of the backboard, stuff like that. It's just it didn't feel easy for him in everything we watched and his ability to finish. I mean, he didn't neither one really finished through contact great.
Yeah.
I think Amin is better at that, finishing through contact, finishing getting fouled a little bit more. Um, but that's a necessary step for them because all the player comps that you have, I have, like are at least capable, if not quality finishers, um, which make them respectable, right?
Yeah.
Before we get to comps, I want to just clarify who we think is better at these individual things because they are different. So if we go
Okay.
3-point shooting, it's a SAR, right?
Right.
I think defense, it's a SAR, right?
Yes.
Athleticism, it's Amin. Passing, I'm saying Amin.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to
Uh,
clarify too, I think Amon is more of a guard prospect and his brother is more of a wing prospect.
okay. What else do you have here in terms of separating them?
We could go with in between game. I guess we'd give that to Asar, even though it's not great. Rim at the rim, that's going to be Amon.
Yeah.
Um,
Both are elite in transition. I don't know if I can. I think Amin's probably better in transition just because he can really, really dunk the ball.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think they're both really good there in transition. Um, Yeah, I think that covers it all as far as scouting goes. Do you have any player comps for either one?
Yes, I have one for both. Let's start with Amin. Um, my comp is kind of a weird one. It's pre-injury Sean Livingston.
For Almond?
Yeah,
Okay.
obviously not the hops, but that's kind of I
Well,
didn't like the,
Livingston could get up a little bit.
but it wasn't like
It's
this.
not this. No, he's not
Yeah,
that
but
concrete
but
though.
I tried trying to find something that wasn't like a John Morant in my head. So pre-injury Livingston. However, it's floor for me. I told you this last night in a text. It's juiced up Stanley Johnson or Justice Winslow. So
I think
you
the
know,
Stanley Johnson one's interesting as far as a floor goes. Stanley Johnson was a long time pro. You know, you give him a couple more inches vertical, and hey, that's a decent player. I got Markel Fultz from him.
ooh,
Kind of obviously young, like as a prospect, Markel Fultz was him. Like,
yeah,
there's
undoubtedly him.
no other
Yeah,
way to like the number one pick, obvious number one pick in a draft
yeah,
with like Jason Tatum and guys like that. Like, and so I'm not gonna say he's that level of a prospect, but I see that like he's almost at that level of prospect to me. Like the athleticism, but the thing is, Markel Fultz in college, everyone thought he could shoot, and he could shoot in college. Markel Fultz could. So Amends doesn't even come into the league with that. Obviously, Markel's situation, whatever happened there, is different with the injuries and then the shot and all that stuff, which was a very rare situation. But I think Amin Thompson comes in, obviously a little bit taller, but with that level of athleticism, with that level of passing potential, feel for the game, I think is there. Obviously, Markel came in as a more polished scorer,
yeah.
and so he's not that level of prospect, but I think from an athleticism perspective, he is kind of at that Markel Fultz level. And I do think, actually, let me see here who you have for Asar first.
Okay, for Star, my comps are Terrence Ross and or Andrew
Ooh,
Wiggins.
I like Terrence Ross.
Yeah,
Okay, so Andrew Wiggins for me, I read up and I saw someone compare him to Andrew Wiggins as well. Let me see who KOC compared them to, because I did not read this. I'm in. That was the John Moran and sorry. Okay, Sean. So for Andrew Wiggins, it's like Asar is the less athletic version of Andrew Wiggins,
yeah,
but Amin is the more athletic version of Andrew Wiggins. If that makes sense.
yeah.
So that's what makes an interesting like comp to me, is that it's very well they could go the Andrew Wiggins route, but the thing is, Andrew Wiggins out of college again was a polished scorer.
Yeah.
Like he came in the league averaging 20 points a game. Like that's Andrew Wiggins. So for both of these, it's kind of difficult. I have a unique one for Asar.
Okay,
I have a
let's hear it.
unique one. I have Bruce Brown.
Interesting. Bruce Brown.
Tell me why that doesn't make sense.
I mean,
High level defender,
honestly, makes a lot of
good
sense.
passer,
Yeah,
not a great scorer, obviously in his own right. Can be a spot up shooter. Obviously, Asar is more athletic. Bruce Brown's a little bit stockier.
yeah.
Obviously he's older at this point in his career. But again, you have those type of things to where I'm looking at players that.
That's interesting. I actually really love that comp.
Okay, thank you. Good.
That's a great comp.
Um, good. We can clip this then. We can clip this. Everyone will love it. But yeah, I look at players like, and then you throw in like a Ben Simmons type, right? 6'9", can handle the ball, can't
Yeah.
shoot. So, and that's for both of them, obviously. And so that's why if we look at it just in general of like, do we think these guys can make it? I think even if they can't shoot, they can find a role on an NBA roster on like potentially helping a team win, because we see teams every year have players that can't shoot that can help. Like
Well,
even
here's
like a Jeremy Sohan, right? Like
yeah.
he's getting there, but he's not there right now. Like I think it's because we put the guard label on them and because they handle the ball so much in OT that we're like, okay, they have to be guards. Well, what if they're not guards? What if they're wings that have limited shooting potential? I think then they're fine.
Well, here's the thing: is them having that guard potential and playmaking ability makes them the fourth and fifth prospect on most people's draft boards. If you take that away from them and put them in a wing role. If you put him in a Bruce Brown role, Bruce Brown's not doing a lot of creating now. Obviously, he can play point guard
Yeah.
a little bit, but Bruce Brown was also drafted in the second round. You're not looking for Ausar to be Bruce Brown with the fourth or fifth pick. You're looking for him to be something more than that.
You're right.
So do
You're
we
right.
think that he can be more than that?
But
Because
I
obviously, watching them right away, your first impression of them is like, oh my God, like these guys are talented. But then when you start to really get into it, you're like, well, there's this, and there's this, and there's this,
it's
and
it's just hard because like last year I was high on Shaden Sharp, right?
yeah,
Similar type thing. We don't have any context for him playing in college, like all that stuff. Thing is, Shaden Sharp showed a lot more scoring pop, like immediately. And Shaden
right,
Sharp is obviously an elite level athlete as well. So the scoring is what hinders it. It's weird for me because where I'm high on them, I'm really, really high on them.
same.
Like defensively, athleticism wise, passing wise. I think they all can be elite. Um, but it's just everything else. And so then it's like, all right, can they be great at all those things? And if they are great at all those things, they could be like Ben Simmons, all-star. But ultimately they're gonna have to shoot the ball. So
So
that's what makes it.
what's a ceiling for both these players for you?
Player ceiling
No, just
or
ceiling in
just
general.
general ceiling. I think they both have all-star potential. I think, and I know that sounds cliche, right? Like, oh, all-star potential, cool. But I draw the line there. I don't
Yeah.
think they're like all NBA. I don't think I just look at them and be like, all right, as an upside here, you can be Jaylen Brown.
Okay,
Does that feel fair?
that feels fair.
Okay.
So the
So
two on a championship team.
yeah, exactly. They could be second on the championship, two on the championship team. So all right. You have floor ceiling you want to do before you get out?
Well, I already told you the floor of Almond, which is juiced up Stanley Johnson. The floor for I think as far as floor is actually higher than his brother's just because of his more polished skills that translate directly to the NBA in terms of being a defender. And I also forgot to mention his cutting ability. His cutting ability is amazing as well, SARS. But I have them both the same thing. It's like 1 or 2 time All-Star type of thing.
As that's your prediction for their careers? 1 or 2.
Ceiling, yeah.
Ooh. Okay. All right. We'll see. We'll see. We'll get our big boards going here. See where. So do you don't have either one over Brandon Miller?
I think Brandon Miller. No, I don't.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, we'll
Here's the
see
thing
how
you
the
have to
big boards
realize:
shake out.
who was
Okay.
picked
What do we have
last
to
in the
realize?
All-Star draft this year? I don't remember off the top of my head. But when they did the All-Star draft,
Yeah. What'd you ask?
who was the last player picked?
I don't remember.
Like, are we gonna say that these guys are better than like a Donovan Mitchell, a Colin Sexton, a
They
I
could
can't think.
be.
They could be.
I mean, they're
That's
better than Colin Sexton. I don't know about Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell's first team
right,
player.
but I'm saying that's like that's what you need them to be better than in my eyes as a 4th and 5th pick. That's really hard for me.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, we will be back very soon. We're gonna start up our versus series where we do player versus players. We did it last year. Some of us got some right, won the argument. Some of us had Johnny
To be
Davis.
fair, we kind of got thrown into.
Some of us had Johnny Davis as our picks, and
You went,
that's
hey,
why.
I'm gonna take Benedict Mathurin. You take Johnny Davis. Defend this man, okay?
Just saying. Just saying. All right. But we will have that up very soon. So we hope y'all enjoyed this episode. Thank you to all the new subscribers. We appreciate it. Hope y'all enjoying the content. And yeah, we'll talk to y'all later.